Mr. Tom Gresham is host of the Gun Talk radio show, heard Sundays here on Keel 1 till 4. Mr. Tom, welcome back to Keel. How are you this morning, sir?
Good morning.
That's a little more of an upbeat greeting than I
know
had.
it wasn't.
Here's the deal. There are court rulings related to the Second Amendment, gun rights, gun control, the threat of gun confiscation, and I kind of go, that's not going to matter much of a damn, and I just dismiss it. But yesterday, a ruling by the Connecticut Supreme Court, it bothers me, and I am more concerned about this ruling than maybe anything in a long, long time. Tell everybody what I'm talking about and tell me whether I'm right or wrong.
Well, it is concerning, Robert. Here's what happened immediately, and then we'll put it into context. The Connecticut Supreme Court ruled that Remington and Bushmaster, makers of rifles, handguns, etc., could be sued. Basically, they could be held liable for the misuse of their firearms, shootings at Sandy Hook in Newtown, saying that, the way they advertised their guns actually makes them possibly liable for this madman, this crazy guy who killed his mother, stole the guns, and then killed the kids.
Stole the guns, exactly.
He murdered his mother and then stole the guns and then murdered the kids in the school. And somehow the people who made these guns in a highly regulated industry where the FBI has to be involved in every single purchase, it has to approve every single purchase of a firearm from a gun store, somehow the gun makers are liable. That's the immediate thing. And, of course, there was a federal law passed to protect gun makers for exactly this, because 20 years ago there were 30 lawsuits, started by New Orleans, by the way, with an idea of we're going to hold gun makers responsible for crimes. And the interesting part was, guys, the stated goal of these lawsuits was to destroy the gun companies. The lawyers who filed the suits, the cities who put them on, said, look, we will be able to destroy gun makers if we can get at least one of these lawsuits to go forward, because then the insurance companies will drop them and they cannot operate without insurance. That's what this lawsuit is about.
So
this is the golden BB. They're trying to put gun makers out of business.
That's the root of my concern. Is this the first step down that road? Are the gun control I am legitimate in my concern about this case, because this scares the hell out of me.
If it were to go forward, every gun maker in America would close its doors. Period. Not a one could exist, because the insurance companies would not cover them if somehow the court said, well, you're responsible for the misuse of a perfectly functioning product. Someone buys your product, it's not defective, and then they go and misuse it somehow, and you're held responsible for it. Insurance companies would drop them, and they would have to lock their doors and shut down, and there would be no more gun manufacturing in the U.S. and probably no more gun stores. This is the end run around people who want to get rid of the Second Amendment but know that they can't. They say, well, we'll just do a de facto move. We'll just get rid of all the gun makers and all the gun sellers, and then we win without having to pass any gun laws.
But, Tom, in reality, this is a state Supreme Court ruling. This likely sets the stage for it to move to the federal court system, correct?
We'll see. I'm sure this particular ruling will be appealed to the Supreme Court. Whether or not they take it is another issue. And also remember, this court did not rule that the plaintiffs in this will win. They just said the suit can go forward and send it back. So now the lawsuit has to go forward on its own. They shouldn't have done that, because there is this law that says, no, you cannot sue. And let me explain very quickly. The federal law is this. You cannot hold a gun maker responsible for the misuse of a gun as long as no one did anything illegal in making or selling the gun, and as long as the gun's not defective. If the gun's defective, then the gun maker can be held responsible. If the gun store that sells it breaks the law in the process, then they can be held responsible. But if everybody does what they're supposed to do, you can't hold them responsible for the nutcase out there. And Robert, you're exactly right. This is like saying I'm going to sue Ford because of a drunk driver.
Mm-hmm. This now paves the way, though, for these families to subpoena documents from the gun companies about how they market guns, etc., correct?
That is exactly right. Aaron, you're so smart. I haven't heard anybody talk about that, but that's exactly what's really going on. They want to get to the inside of the records of gun companies, which, of course, as I say, they're highly regulated anyway. They're not going to find anything, the stuff they're looking for. But once again, they say, if we can cause them to spend $100 million defending themselves, then we're going to scare some of these gun companies out of business, where they're just going to close up.
Tom, we have to shift gears to New Zealand for a minute. We've got another mass shooting, 49 dead, many others have been wounded, in a country where we hear they have really tough gun laws, correct?
They do. They have tough gun laws. In order to buy a gun in New Zealand, you have to get the permission of the police. You have to have a firearms license. And, oh, yeah, by the way, self-defense is not an allowable reason to own a gun in New Zealand. You will note that no one in the church had a gun to defend themselves. So they're left, unfortunately, and it sounds callous, but it just is, they're left to simply, their defense is to pray and hope and hold their hands up and try to get mercy for people who are merciless. Contrast that with Sutherland Springs, Texas, where the guy goes into the church, he's shooting it up. How does he get stopped? One guy with an AR-15 rifle shoots him and stops him from doing all that. I mean, that's basically the difference. I don't know why people think for some reason that churches are different from other places, that they're supposed to be safe. They're just another building. When it comes to your security, they're just another building. And yes, they're special places from a religious standpoint, but from a security standpoint, there's nothing special about that place, and you need the same level of defense there that you do anywhere else.